Hello, I'm Derek Terry, host of I'm Not Complaining, I'm Just Saying. Here at one of my favorite spots, the barbershop, where we know if you're gonna complain here, then you better provide solutions.
Good.
It's good. I firmly believe when we make other people's problems part of our conversations without providing solutions or prayer, then we become part of the problem. I want to be able to provide people with a platform where they can freely express their views on such topics as education, social issues, health and fitness. And that's good. Or sports. So please join me so we can complain and provide solutions together. Hey, what's going on, peoples? This is your man, Derek Terry, host of I'm Not Complaining, I'm Just Saying, where you're going to complain, bring some solutions to the table. Welcome to episode 7. Go ahead and adjust this real quick. Episode 7. I'm sorry, not episode 7, season 7, episode 11 of my voter education series, where I will be interviewing Charles County Board of Commissioner as well as Charles County Board of Education candidates. I want you to keep in mind that my views are my views, and I've emailed every registered candidate, and some have taken me up on this free advertising. Some have not, for whatever reason, but it is what it is. So before I start, you may notice this shirt on here. I'm not sure how it's showing up on your screen, but it says beautiful and empowered, okay, which is short for BAE. And this is a women's organization that looks to develop meaningful relationships with other women and like-minded professionals. Now you may be saying, why am I wearing this shirt? Well, they also help out with the less fortunate, volunteering their time, feeding the homeless, and sometimes men such as myself can be of assistance. So I want to thank our fearless leader, Tia Collins, who is the president and founder, and all the many women as well as men that help make this organization not only better for the community, but better for ourselves. So you'll be seeing this shirt throughout the duration of this broadcast. So with that, we're going to bring in my special guest, which is Linda Warren, who is running for the Board of Education District 4. And let me bring this up. And here we go. And hopefully for technology. And once again, we want to welcome Linda Warren, who is running for Charles County Board of Education District 4. Welcome, Linda, welcome.
Well, hello, good afternoon, or good evening, I should say.
Good evening to you. How are you doing?
I'm doing well.
Yeah, we're still doing this virtual thing, but sometimes it works better in these situations. Not necessarily because of the fear of COVID, just because it's just easier to do.
Yes.
So with that, we're going to go ahead and get started. But before we get started, could you please tell my audience something about Linda Warren, the person, not the candidate, but the person?
Well, Linda Warren, the person, loves Zumba. So the next Zumba-a-thon or anything going on in the community, please let me know. I'll keep a lookout for it. I like to dance. I like to have fun. I'm originally from the Philadelphia area. I've been in Maryland, though. This is my second home. I've been here since 2011 in the state itself. I'm a graduate from Lincoln University and Liberty University.
Which Lincoln?
Lincoln University in Pennsylvania.
Oh, okay. Okay. I had to ask.
Yes, yes.
I don't know if you was there when Cyrus Jones was their track coach, but
Yes,
yeah,
Coach
yeah,
Jones, yes.
yeah, that's where I was supposed to go, but that's a
Oh
different story for a
yeah,
different day. But
yeah. So the track team was A1. Yes,
oh
a
yeah,
lot of my friends.
T5T.
Yes, yes. A lot of my friends were on the track team.
Oh,
I actually used to run track in high school, so I don't know why I didn't go out. I think I might have been a little, I don't know, nervous. I'm not sure why I didn't go out when I at Lincoln, but yes, Lincoln University has my heart. Yeah, so I moved to Maryland though. I've been here since my second home. I moved here over a decade ago, so I've been in this area in Charles County for almost 10 years. I'm married, and I formerly taught in Baltimore City. That's where I started my education career. It kind of went full circle. I ended up back in Pennsylvania working for the Department of Ed, and it's taken another turn this time around. So I love education. It's my passion. I'm an educator, and I also started a nonprofit. I'm the founder of Young Pioneers Enrichment Center, and where we focus on character education. I used to teach health education, so that's where that kind of comes from, and a lot of what my platform stems from. Health education, I think right now is, we could say that it's very, very important, certain topics within that.
yeah,
So
we'll
yeah, that's a little,
definitely touch on that. Now that
yeah.
you mention that, I'll make sure that I add that to my notes.
Yes. So again, I taught over a decade ago. That was a while back that I taught, that I was a teacher. But I love education, and I'm happy to be here in Charles County. And that's pretty much it.
Okay. What I find fascinating about all the candidates that I've interviewed, there's always similarities. There's something I can relate to. You talk about Lincoln, the connection there, but Lincoln isn't really too far from where I grew up, which is Edgewood, Maryland. So straight up Route 1.
Oh, okay. Yeah, great.
And you talk about health education. My wife is a health PE teacher, and she does health education.
Yes.
Of course, we talked about track, Zumba. We both love to dance. I just don't really care for Zumba. I like samba, merengue.
Okay.
But yeah, definitely. And you said you started teaching Baltimore City, and that's where I started teaching in my former
Awesome.
life, at Lake Clifton High School, where I had a blast. But
yeah,
like anything, life goes on and you move on.
yes, it does.
So before we get into your platform, briefly, what prompted you to want to run for the Board of Education?
Well, as I said, I am an educator, and oh my gosh, this desire to run really started way back when, probably in 2009, when I was working for a nonprofit, and I had just come out of the classroom actually, and I started working for a nonprofit who was very active in Annapolis, and I learned a lot. I feel like I came out of the classroom and was introduced to a whole new world. But this particular nonprofit had grants with STAMHSA, and they were like drug prevention grants and alcohol prevention, HIV, STD prevention. And they did a lot of policy work too, where they would I spent a day in Annapolis with a delegate, and had to go before the Judicial Committee and read a letter of support. And it was a fascinating and eye-opening experience. What I will say, the original reason or where this was birthed out of was in the classroom as a health teacher. And just personally, one of my units that I enjoyed teaching was on tobacco prevention. And I always personally had an issue with when you come out of the mall, say you come out of the mall, and there's always trash cans on each side of the entrance, and you could walk through cigarette smoke. And I'm like, what in the world? Why would they put that? It would drive me crazy.
Imagine back in the day when they could smoke in the mall.
Right. So what I found out later on, working with this nonprofit, I learned, different things about coalition work, ordinances, just things I learned about policy. I was introduced to policy, and that policies are what bring about change, like change for the long term. And so from there, that's where my first introduction through a nonprofit came from with policy and that passion. So I'm like, I started kind of looking into educational policy. It was something I wanted to get into. My career went a different way a little bit, but that's where that stemmed from. So years, obviously decades, almost a decade later, I moved here and, I changed, I don't want to say I changed careers, but my careers have always been health, education, and public health. They always kind of ran together. So that desire to bring about change in a community that will help, especially for youth and education, that's where that was birthed out of. And it never went away. It never went away. I wanted to try to find an avenue to be grounded in that area. So that's pretty much why I'm running. It's just a desire to make impact and bring about lasting change, and that can only be done through policies.
Okay, and we definitely appreciate that. As all candidates, everyone has their reasons why they're running, and it's just nice to get a feel for why people are running. So we're going to now get to your platform. I found it very interesting. And as I hear why you're running, now I can see why you have this platform. You have three main components. You have social emotional learning, which we'll talk about, teacher professional development and support, and school community connections. So we're going to start with the social emotional learning, or what they refer to as SEL. I read up on it a little bit, but this is more for our viewers. So tell us in simple terms.
Right.
What is social emotional learning, or SEL?
Well, it's big. I tried to change it up on my website so it's simple. And in short, I'm going to just read a little bit, but in short, it's about management. I'm just going to say that self-management, managing your emotions, managing how you make decisions, managing your relationships. It's like a self-governing, how to self-govern. That's my definition. That's not Castle's definition, but that's in short what it is. But I'm going to read what I have here and what's on my website. SEL is the process through which all young people and adults acquire and apply knowledge, skills, and attitudes to develop healthy identities, manage emotions, achieve personal and collective goals, feel and show empathy for others, establish and maintain supportive relationships, and make responsible and caring decisions. So I'll just leave it right there, but that is all about managing, self-management. That's my summation of it, and how to handle situations and circumstances in a healthy way. Uh-oh, I can't hear you. You can mute me.
There I go. With SEL, how do you see this being implemented or immediately impacting Charles County Public Schools if you're elected?
Well, what I do know, I was happy to find out that it has already, Charles County Public Schools have already implemented an SEL curriculum called Move This World. And it's in the elementary schools. And it also, I believe this upcoming year, they're going to try to implement it in the 6th grade. So I was excited to hear about that. And I actually talked to a parent who has an elementary school child in elementary school. And because I watched the webinar that the school presented on, TC Martin to be exact, they did a wonderful presentation, overview for parents on SEL and Move This World. And the parent that I know, she said that she's like, oh yeah, I remember that. I know what that is. Basically it's about they have videos 5 to 7 minutes. The good part is the schools were still able to implement it during COVID because it's virtual. They have virtual videos. So it takes about anywhere from 5 to 7 minutes to watch the video, talk about a specific topic, and how to, whether it's confronting a conflict or how to express how you're feeling, that kind of thing. So to answer your question about immediately, just the fact that it was virtual was one, and that students were able to utilize it during COVID which was a huge change for everybody. A major.
And you said this is on the elementary level, right?
It's on the elementary level,
Okay.
yes.
Okay.
Now, I would like it to be on every school level, every grade level. And now I realize I don't have control over that, but that is something that I would love to see. And I know I was told by the superintendent that it pretty much is up to the schools to implement it. And I know some schools have like character traits that they do, and every school does something different. But right now, I do know that it's being implemented at the elementary level.
Well, I guess the question would be, what purpose would it serve to schools? What purpose would it serve to schools if they were to do it?
Excellent question. Well, first of all, it provides a framework to set a certain school culture and climate. Okay. That's the major. That's how I see it. Major. It provides schools with a framework for a safe and, I want to say sound, kind of cliches, but safe and sound school climate where every student can feel a sense of belonging. Every student can feel safe to express how they feel and talk to one another. So I think that's the gist of it. It provides a safe and supportive school climate for the teachers as well as the students. So that's the overall purpose of the program.
And as I listen to this, I feel because we were in virtual and we went back to school, in the physical setting, that to some degree it was rushed because there was nothing really in place like you have in elementary or some elementary schools to say, okay, here's the school climate, here's the culture, because they've been living in a virtual culture.
Right.
And then now you're sort of like, hey, you're in this back in the physical setting. We don't know how to behave. I wouldn't say that, but there's certain things that we missed because that ninth grader really is coming in with a seventh grade mentality. That fourth grader is coming in with a second grade mentality because for the third grade, they was in virtual. Right. So, but yeah, I can definitely see where, this would have some benefit on all levels. Now, next, you talk on your next platform issue is teacher professional development and support, which Charles County has gotten better. But as a former educator here, it was horrible. I'm not gonna lie. It was not beneficial. Meaning that it was more like, you could have just, gave me the website and I could have did it myself. So what areas of professional development do you see the need to improve and why or how? And how will we improve those?
Well, one area that I mentioned on my website, again, and I know as a board member, we don't have direct, the day-to-day, we don't deal with the day-to-day. So we totally up to the principal, superintendent, and all of that. But I think one of the things that, and ironically, I did not know this, but I had it on my website about the professional learning communities. The superintendent actually did a presentation about that, and she highlighted a school that the teachers are implementing that. And professional learning communities are where teachers come together and they discuss strategies and methods of teaching.
Now, is it just one school or is it something that?
Well, it is the one, she highlighted one school.
Oh, okay.
She highlighted one school.
Okay.
But what I'm suggesting is we could work our way from the outside, from the inside out, meaning teachers forming those professional learning communities within their schools. And they probably already have, as the school that she pointed out is doing. I think that is impactful. I know as a former teacher, we get like 30 minutes or less, feels like it, of planning. Sometimes I was on the creative arts team, so we had same planning period, but seldom did we get together. I don't recall ever getting together with my colleagues to talk about teaching strategy.
Yeah, you may maybe at the beginning, but the problem is you have teachers who have different philosophical ideologies.
Mm-hmm.
Classroom management may be different. You know, me,
Mm-hmm.
I come in military style. I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
well, you have no, I ain't going that well. Didn't I say sit down? You know, I don't have time for all that. Sit
Right.
down, you know.
Yeah.
And I'm more of a hands-on. So, well,
Mm-hmm.
they can't learn that. Well, how do you know? Maybe they couldn't learn it from you.
Mm-hmm.
But
See, and yeah, no, but that's good because we
Right.
shouldn't all be the same. You
Yeah.
know, that's because the students aren't.
Yeah.
So where you're coming in military on hands on, and I'm like, listen, you all need to make a decision. You need to think through your process. You're like, yeah, but they need to put, this is how they're going to think through that. Let me show them how to put hands to thought.
Yeah.
So when teachers come together, that's the beauty of teaching. That's the beauty of education. We're all different. You know, we're all different. We all bring a different flavor. We all, and we can add to one another. And as adults, that's where that SEL piece comes in for adults too, because we get to work how we work together. So I think one teacher, and I know I love education. I love the school dynamics. I know how it can be. I used to teach middle school, by the way. And I know teachers, we are wonderful professionals. And you know, but we're creative, and I think that it starts there. It starts, you know, and I know things have changed, I'm sure, since I've been out of the classroom. But I think it starts there with the conversation, you know, and that would probably come from the administration, for teachers to have that time to converse and to plan and to talk together, see what's working for their students. And then from there, I think what professional development looks like you said, you just don't want to, you know, like, hey, I could have went to the website for that. But I mean, if it's subject matter specific, that would be awesome. You know, subject matter specific where you can utilize it right then and there, like apply it immediately after you leave the professional development.
And I would think also to make sure it's not something redundant, because I would probably say 50% of the professional developments I've had, I'm like, for real, I already know this. Why do I have to do this? You know,
Oh yeah,
this
definitely
is something that you could have just sent to me. I looked at it, and there's not a lot of time for Q&A. So
yeah, from what I can remember, I can agree with that. It's
now in terms of supports, have you had the opportunity to speak with parents and administrators when it comes to the lack of supports?
I have not yet,
Okay.
and I'm looking forward to that.
Any educators in the area?
Not yet.
So I would say, as a former teacher, and I don't be honest, I don't think too much has changed. What do you feel are some of the supports that are lacking, and how would you address it as a board member?
Well, it just takes me back.
I always say, just think of yourself going into the classroom.
Yeah. Now, what did you teach, if you don't mind me asking?
When I was in Baltimore City, I taught high school, but I was special ed and I taught math. So I've taught middle school as well.
Now, I know this is going to like kind of date me, and people might think this is really seriously, but I'm a professional, people. I just want to let you know now. But you will understand this when I say this. I'm being funny, but I'm being serious. Paper. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. But I know we're in a digital age. Yeah. But do you remember the lack of paper?
Oh yeah, what I remember is using the 11 by 14 and having to cut it, because they had that heavy stock.
Thank you.
And we didn't have a copier, so I had to get the carbon. And I got to the point that I said, you know what? We just use anything when it comes to paper.
Yeah. So you understand what I'm saying. Some people that may not teach or teach, everybody might not like that, but that's just that's a funny fact in teaching.
Yeah, it's like paper is like the basic necessity that most people think. You know, pencils. Why do you got to pay for that?
You know, yes.
So, yeah.
You know what else I would like to see? And again, I'm learning too in this process of running and what the board does. I am learning. I'm not afraid to say that or ashamed to say that. But I would also like to see, just from coming out of education, going into other fields. And I know we have teacher associations and things like that, but there are other professional associations that teachers can, be a part of. And I'm sure some of them are, some other education associations. I think that kind of exposure would be excellent. for the teachers that are interested in that. Everybody may not be interested in going to a conference or going to an educator's.
Well, the other thing, you have budget constraints.
True.
You also have time constraints. And be honest with you,
that's
it's hard. You have to do a whole lot more planning when you're not in the classroom.
This is true.
So yes. I tried to stay away from many of those as possible. I'm like, oh man, I got to do this and do that. And then sometimes the sub doesn't even do, you put all that work into it and sub didn't even do what you told them to do.
This is true. That's why I'm making my rounds. That's my plan to talk to some educators to, get some more current, just to hear them out. But I do know some things just don't change. Yeah.
All right. So your last platform issue, and I kind of want you to break this down by each piece. And I always say speaking, in layman's terms, so I can understand.
Right.
You have school community connections. You have whole school, whole community, whole child framework. Might as well throw Whole Foods in there as well. No, I'm just kidding. But
right.
What is whole school? What do you mean by that? I guess, or they refer to as WSCC. Yeah.
So this is where the whole health education background comes in, health and everything. So I have, and I know I probably won't be able to see it, but the whole school.
Well, I'm gonna say, hold that thought for 1 second. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna bring it up as you go through it because it's a very interesting concept, but as you're going through it to give the viewers an opportunity to see exactly what you're talking about. So let me bring this up. Okay, can you see it? Let's go bring this over.
Not yet. There we go. Yeah.
All right. So, oops, sorry about that. So explain what the whole school, to make sure I'm going in the right way. Well, we'll just go right here. All right. So explain to us what you mean by the whole school model.
So basically what it says right there, as you can see, now, again, I absolutely love this, but let me be very clear. I know as a board member, again, this is like I think this is more, we don't deal with the day-to-day. This is just something, this is like a wish list for me. And I think it's very important, but as you can see, it's 10 components. And I would highly encourage, especially, I know my health educators can appreciate this and PE teachers and everybody really. But I would highly recommend going to this website and clicking on, because if you graze over that circle, the circle over there, yeah, you can actually click on each one. I just wanted to see if you can click on each one. Yeah, it's interactive. It's excellent. Like the whole school. Yes, the whole school is what it sounds like. Everyone, every staff member, every student, principal, and everything. And I want to say, because I know I've talked a lot, a couple of times that I've talked on forums, I said a lot about teachers, and I do support teachers. I also support administrators. I support educators, PP, the pupil personnel workers, everyone, because I remember coming in contact with all school counselors, everyone. So this is what the whole school piece is about, and there are 10 components. And when I do have my a meet and greet, I'll keep this short and kind of concise because it is a lot. It's a lot.
Yeah, but I think when I look at it, to be honest with you, it's things that we should really already have.
True.
And like physical education, physical activity, that should be already in there. And it's not going to cost us any additional money. Nutrition, environment, and services, that should be already in there. It's not costing us money. Health education, it's part of it anyway. You have to be taught. Social and emotional climate. I don't overlapping. Costing us physical. The only thing I can see maybe costing us something is additional counseling, psychological, and social services. Because there's a need for it. Now, whether or not the money is there, I don't know. But when you look at this is a model that doesn't really cost the taxpayers much that we don't already need. Then I look at 7. The question I have is you see this model, right?
Hmm.
What is it about this model that, how would you try to sell this over to um, the rest of the board members and get the superintendent on board? Because to me, trying to do it school by school doesn't make sense, because if I transfer from, say, I don't know, Westlake, and I go to St. Charles, and this is not in place, now I got to learn something totally different when it comes to the culture.
Right.
So how do you make this work?
That is, Derek, that is an excellent, excellent question. And I want to say too, because I know I spoke about the social emotional learning framework. As you can see, I like frameworks. I need, structure and things that bring order. That is an excellent question. And I think the thing that I like about this model is to the core for me, I believe it encompasses all things health: mental, emotional, social, physical, intellectual, environmental. It encompasses all things health, which, like you said, all of this, I'm sure all the schools have this. This is not something that's new. It's not something that every school, I mean, every school has this.
I believe they have it, but I believe that there's different emphasis on some and less on others. Like in some schools, you may have family engagement may be at the bottom.
Mm-hmm.
Employee, depending on your leadership, employee wellness, and I know every school's not the same. Literally, right. If you want to think of a reason why I left education altogether, it was number 8. Mm-hmm. It was 8. With employee wellness, which is, how do they define that here? Employee wellness.
Over there.
There you go.
Click on that one, because that is that.
Yes, fostering there it is. So fostering the physical and mental health of school employees, protect school staff, and by doing so helps support students' health, academic success. Healthy school employees are more productive and less likely to be absent. Well, that's common sense. But guess what? You have administrators. It's up to administration and leadership to take ownership.
Yes.
Because when I used to work in a school where I enjoyed going to work because of the atmosphere. Mm-hmm. My job that I'm at now, I enjoy going to work because of employee wellness.
Yes.
And I can see why, and we kind of like get into another topic, recruitment and retention.
I was going to say that. And that would be my selling point. Because if the employees are well, the students are well. That would be one way. And then their academics as well. And employees that are well can educate students and help them to be well. So it's a trickle down effect. So I could take any one of those and quote unquote sell it. But that employee wellness, I think sometimes maybe not, because like I said, me being an educator, teachers and administrators, I do, as I've learned and did some studies in educational leadership, being a principal, being an administrator is no easy task. I do understand that. Being a school counselor, much respect. Pupil personnel worker, much respect. All of the staff, okay? Much respect to everyone. But that piece about employee wellness, that is serious. And I know the sole focus of schools is safety for students and adults, but safety for our students and their education. That's what we go to school. That's what students go to school for. That's the whole sole purpose. In addition to that, though, you are absolutely right. Sometimes adults, we don't get the care and the consideration and the support that we need to do our job successfully. So that would be a key selling point, because that's one of the areas that is being challenged right now with teacher retention. That's a heavy, really heavy issue. So yeah, that would be my selling point at this point.
Okay. Well, as we wrap up, I have one more question, and we definitely had, we talked about health education, and we know mental health is one of the things that we're going to be dealing with probably for the next couple of years. What, as a board member, how do we address mental health with dealing with students? And I wouldn't necessarily say bullying. Well, yeah, we could say bullying. That have this bullying mentality, because I tell people that anybody who does something which is not normal has mental issues. It's not normal to just walk up and slap somebody. It's not normal to, hey, I'm going to shoot somebody. That's not normal behavior. So when you have bullying, that's not normal behavior. You just don't wake up, oh, I think I'm gonna bully somebody today. Sometimes it's learned, and sometimes it's because of some traumatic experience. But when we talk about bullying, because this is where I find a lot of parents that get upset with the board,
right? Because
things aren't addressed at the school level, or they're not addressed at the superintendent level. And then they come to the meetings and they vent, rightfully so, and they're frustrated. And we go through this revolving cycle. If you had the opportunity to speak with a parent during a board meeting, it probably won't happen, but the way it's set up. And they said, you know what, my child has been bullied. I went here, I went there, I went here, I went there, and I get nothing. What are you going to do as a board?
Derek, these wonderful, awesome, amazing questions. Oh my goodness. So first and foremost, I think as an educator, because a lot of stuff happens in the classroom, on school buses and all that. Like I forget what school, when this happened, but it was years back. I think it was after some of the really rough incidents happen in schools.
Started.
Not even, this was nationally, because there's a lot of things happening nationwide in schools. And one school put pictures of all of their students up on the walls, so that every staff member really could know who that student was. And I think that is just on a back to the basics level of knowing the student, like knowing them by name, knowing them by name, considering them, just regarding who they are, cultivating that relationship. And I think that's just taking it back to the basics, just knowing who they are, knowing their name, just back to the basics, So I think that's one thing. Sometimes we can get just far away from what works. Simple things as proximity. Teachers know that, being in the classroom, walking close to the kids, talking, saying, how you doing today, or whatever, but just proximity. Some of the basic things that we have learned as educators, and just being relational to the students. But students of all ages, they want to feel safe, they want to feel supported and comfortable. And sometimes the home is not that place, and the school may be. So we need to take an opportunity to know the child's name, at least, at the very least.
Okay. That I do agree with. And it takes time, believe me.
It does. And I know teachers are tired and wore out and everything. I get it. I do. I do get it. So as far as your question, that question is loaded.
Well, I think what I'm trying to get at, because realistically you wouldn't be able to address it.
Right.
But I think what I'm looking for is accessibility. Are you accessible? Because they could simply email you as well. And depending on your response, or I'll look into it, or you have the power as a board member to tell the superintendent, like, I had a parent with a concern, can it be addressed? And then you just tell the parent, hey, if it's not, and that's what I look at the board as. And because you're in District 4, you should get District 4 concerns. Now that they've changed the way that you vote, I wouldn't expect you to get a District 1 concern, because the ones who voted for you were District 4. If they want to change the game, then you have to stay within your district. That's just my opinion. So when it comes to District 4, that's something that if a District 4 resident comes to you with a concern, I think mostly they just want to make sure you're accessible and you follow through. No one's asking you to give us, to address it, because you may not be able to solve what the issue is, but at least you put them in the right direction. I think that's really what most residents are looking for, parents are looking for.
And that rightfully so. And I can say that I would be accessible. I'm just naturally, as a person, I like to provide resources. So not only would I try to provide them with the resource, I would reach out to the superintendent, go through the necessary protocols that are in place. But I like to provide resources. So, and like I live in this county, I work in this county, very familiar with the resources in this county. So I'm not just going to leave you, high and dry, or just like, oh, I'll check on it. That's just my nature. And I think that's the educator in me too, wanting to educate, wanting to inform, the public or a person. So I am going to do that. That's a given for me. So that would, because I know, like, it's a very important topic, but very challenging. And parents, when they're upset, and they don't really want to hear a whole lot of talking and this, that, and the third.
And you don't necessarily need to get to the bottom, but at least acknowledge.
Oh yeah, well that's a no-brainer for me.
Some elected officials don't even do that.
Oh, okay. No, I'm just, in my nature and my personality, that's a no-brainer. And that's, like I said, as an educator, I'm always trying to inform and to, I don't have a problem with that.
All right, so we've reached the end of our interview, but before we go, and before you, I always say give a 1-minute elevator speech of why people should vote for you. I do this thing called word funnies. So when I say a word or a term, you just say what comes to your mind. Whether it's you can say one word, you can say a sentence, you can say a couple words. Just don't give me a dissertation. Okay. All right, or testimony. All right. So first word, Charles County.
Growth.
School safety.
Important.
Special education.
Love.
Youth development.
Empowerment.
College preparedness.
21st century learning skills. That's what that is.
Cheney State.
Lincoln University.
And I know a little bit of history. Yeah, that's appreciate it. Actually, Lincoln University is what I meant to say. But, you end up saying it anyway. So.
Right.
So yeah, I definitely want to thank you for coming on the show. I want to bring this up so people can see it.
Thank you for having me.
Where are we at? Okay. And you have the last word. So, Linda Warren, why should District 4 residents vote for Linda Warren?
You all should vote for me, District 4 residents, because I love education. I love children. I love the profession. I am an educator. I am qualified. I'm experienced. And I am here to help aid the community and in the school system and being one of the best in the state of Maryland. So that is why you should vote for me.
Okay. And as you can see, her website is listed www.votelindawarren.com. And like I tell all the candidates, I'm not here endorsing a candidate, but if there's anything I can do to assist or put your platform out, don't hesitate to let me know, because it's about educating our voters. That's all I want to do is educate. But at the same time, you need to educate yourselves out there.
Absolutely.
Voters, you need to educate yourselves. I only can do but so much. But at the end of the day, you need to do your education and have these conversations, ask these tough questions of all the candidates. They may not know all the answers, but hey, you're not gonna know unless you ask. So definitely appreciate you being on the show.
Thank you so much for providing this platform. This is amazing. And I think that's the educator in you, wanting to inform the public, making people aware. So I love it. It's a pleasure talking to you, meeting you, and I will see you around.
All right, and good luck with everything.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Well, as always, I like to thank all the candidates that took time out of busy schedules to interview and to provide you, the voter, an opportunity to hear their platform and as well as address some questions which are specific to education or specific to the environment, taxes, whatever it may be. Big shout out to Linda Warren, who's running for Charles County Board of Education candidate. I'm the Charles County Board of Education District 4, and for being on the show. So as we close, I just once again want to give a big shout out to beautiful and empowered and Tia Collins. She is the president and founder, and they do a lot of great things. So if you need more information on that, you can find them on Facebook, Beautiful and Empowered, or B Bravo Alpha Echo Bay, BAE, and support them any way you can. But however you support anybody, make sure we always stay kind. So I'm going to get ready to go, and I thank everyone for attending. And don't know who my next guest will be, but rest assured, I will be complaining. I will be saying, but we will have some solutions, and that's what we're supposed to do. Till then, peace and blessings.
Blaze the path.